An application that we put in to the Grace Harbor Community Foundation for the improvements to Garley Park was funded at $25,000. And that was Doug Farmer's first grant that he's written to the Community Foundation. And he received more money than when I wrote a grant, so I let him know that he will have the opportunity to write all of the grants to the Community Foundation now. The second part is an update from the item that was tabled from the last City Council meeting. Just as a reminder, at the last meeting, there was a report that was put through requesting that the City Council authorize the mayor to sign the agreement with National Event Pros for the Splash inflatable rides in the amount of $4,439.09. There were some questions and requests for some clarification. So there's some bullet points in the handout that I gave you regarding the report request. The company that we use is, or have used for the last 11 years, if it were this year, it'd be the 12 years, National Event Pros. National Event Pros last year, their staff forgot to bring some equipment with them that they needed, which they had to borrow from the city staff. So they gave us a discount of $528, which is about 11% of the total bill. We did receive a complaint regarding the cleanliness of the inflatables. I would hate to take 11 years of really good service and not utilize that company because we had a complaint. Not that the complaint doesn't have value, but as somebody who manages the log pavilion, if we had an organization that used the pavilion that had really good service for 11 years, and then they had 1 year where there was a bad incident, I would certainly hope that they would give us an opportunity to remedy that and continue using the pavilion. So I want to do the same for National Event Pros. The Splash Festival is probably one of the largest events that we as the Parks Department manage. We have upwards of 10,000 people that come, and the inflatables are a very important part. The inflatable rides are an important part of the Splash Festival. So we like to work with a company that we know will show up on time, be professional, bring the equipment that we requested, and have staff there to make sure that our users are safe when using the ride. We did have a suggestion last year to contact a local business that also offers a similar service of inflatables for rent for events. Last year, or on December 16th, that particular business had posted online that they had closed. So Doug and I had assumed that the business had closed, but then it was brought to my attention, obviously, that they're still doing the inflatable rentals. So we contacted the city's business license office to get their contact information, and we found out that unfortunately that particular business is delinquent in their fourth quarter taxes and had been sent a pre-revocation of their license letter. And also the last item I wanted to share with you what's in our purchasing policy for contracts for services like that are less than $10,000. It can be approved by the department director, and we can do direct negotiation with just one vendor. So hopefully that provides you the information that you're looking for. Of course, I'm hopeful that tonight the report will be added back to the agenda and approved. It is somewhat time sensitive. If we don't put our deposit down, there is a possibility that the events that we've requested to use may not be available for Splash. So, were there any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. Any other department heads? Seeing none, we'll move on to Mayor Pete Shave's report.
Thank you. First of all, I needed somebody to be on the library board, and Katie volunteered for that. So do we need to confirm that with the council vote?
Yes.
So I would entertain a motion to confirm Katie.
During no regular business meeting.
Oh, absolutely.
So Mayor Shave, we'll add that to the agenda.
Thanks. And so that left open the position on the Chehalis Flood Authority, and John Mackey's is considering that position. If anybody else is interested, let me know. So I met with Stephanie Reese and Cheryl Haywood from the library, and I put in your packets, in your boxes, all the information they gave us, showing all the different things the library does, some of the events that they're involved in coming up, and there's a lot of stuff. So a lot of things that they're involved in and that they do. I met with a gentleman from loan and investment company that's looking for renters that would be interested in buying their homes here in Aberdeen, 3%, which is kind of impressive. So he's interested in Aberdeen and trying to make Aberdeen a better place. Met on the transit board. The transit board is moving their general offices into the Harbor Square building, which is above, over here above Brian's Jewelers and the pizza house there. And, they're so crowded into their current offices that they're using closets for office space. So, and they've been trying to find a location to build a new office, but that hasn't worked out. So they're going to move in there for probably the next 5 years. Let's see. Oh, another issue we're working on is putting a ballot box in Aberdeen. We're working on a location to do that. So let's see. Just to let you know, I heard today that the Employment Security is honoring any issues that develop from the virus issue that's going around. If you're laid off, Employment Security is going to honor that, let you sign up for employment. And census training will be in this room tomorrow for their final training session. And I think that's about it.
Thank you. I would just ask, is there any information you can share with us about any planning the city is doing in response to the COVID-19?
We're following the county health department's advice and regulations. We've made some minor changes in the building involving sanitation issues. And that, you know, other than that, that's about it. We're just keeping in touch with the health department real closely.
Thank you. Moving on to non-standing committee reports. Do we have any non-standing committee reports tonight? Councilman Alstrom.
Thank you. I attended the museum board meeting last week. We have a couple items under a special agenda for a session, and D session have some items. One of the things, the process we have now, it takes quite a while to, if somebody wants to donate something, to get through the process and then finally to the council, which can add a couple of weeks. And I'm going to take a look at our ordinance governing the museum, and we've kind of gone a year in since the fire, and kind of take a look at that ordinance and discuss with the board and maybe propose some changes to it. That'll be kind of a work in the process. I mean, for a while, but nothing coming up immediately. But anyway, I think there's some items in the ordinance that we can clean up or make clear exactly what responsibilities are. So that'll be coming later in here.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, the committee of the whole is closed.
Okay. It's 7:25, and I call to order the March 11th Aberdeen City Council meeting. Roll call.
Alstrom,
Here.
Andrews,
Here.
Frank Crosby, absent. Francy,
Here.
Gordon,
Here.
Kachman,
Here.
Kennedy,
Here.
Maki,
Here.
Rodgers, is absent. Ross,
Here.
Rowe,
Here.
Shaw,
Here.
and Mayor Shea is here. Mayor, we have a quorum, 10 members present, 2 absent.
Okay, thank you. Will you all join me in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would move that we excuse council members Shane Crosby and Jared Rodgers.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to excuse the 2 council members. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Is there a motion to approve the previous minutes?
So moved. Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Is there additions or deletions? Councilmember Alstrom.
For Public Works, we request 2 additions, both concerning an RCO grant request and a resolution for that RCO grant request. So we move to have those 2 items out of the agenda.
I second.
Motion been made and seconded to add 2 additions to the Public Works. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. 2 additions are added to Public Works agenda. Are there any other additions? Councilmember Ross.
Finance Committee would like to add the previously tabled report of the Splash 2020.
Okay. We don't actually need to vote on these.
Okay.
No, I don't think so. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, is there a motion to add that? Seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Councilmember Shaw.
Mayor Shea, I would move that under special agenda items E, we add 2 appointments and an appointment to the library board.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Any more? Okay, we'll move on to public comments on agenda items. 3 minutes, please.
For the record, would you please include your name and your ward or city if you're not from Aberdeen? Thank you.
My name is Carol Tukanen, and I live in Ward 3, and we have a business in Ward 5. My husband Manny and I have Fin Electric on State Street. In August 2019, we purchased, the city purchased the property directly behind our business with the intent to relocate the TASL there, excuse me. We understand that there is a homelessness, drug addiction, mental health problem in the nation which has reached our community. We know this firsthand. When the river camp was within walking distance of our business, we had our share of problems. If the city moves the camp to the Michigan Street property, how is the city going to protect the residents and the businesses in this area? 24-hour security for all? I don't think so. So many of the indigent people we now have in our community are unfortunately here because they choose to be. When are our laws going to be enforced? When are the lawbreakers going to be punished? When are we going to be able to walk the streets of our town? When are we going to do something to really help these people? Enabling them is not helping. Enabling them is prolonging the time spent in their afflictions. Enabling them is costing the taxpayers money. Enabling them is causing businesses to leave Aberdeen. Enabling them is killing them. One thing that we have observed in regard to this, no one is in favor of moving the TASL. Take care of the situation where it is. By moving the TASL, it will be out of sight, out of mind, and turn into another jungle. It is time for the City Council and the citizens to make a difference in everyone's lives. Maddie and I are asking that the council vote no on relocating the TASL. Vote no on a low barrier shelter anywhere. Vote yes on coming up with a plan that will truly help the indigent population as well as the citizens of Aberdeen. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Debbie Bertini, Ward 5, and here we are back to the final vote. Do we destroy the community of Michigan Street and the families that live down there and the businesses like Carol and Maddie who have already had to deal with this issue? They used to pick up 17 needles a day off of their front porch at work, before they could even go to work. And I know that some of the business owners have had to deal with that downtown as well. And I remember reading on Facebook, what can you do to help me stop this? And now all of a sudden they're changing. But moving down by the railroad is never a good option. It's not healthy, it's not safe for these people. We have to care about them as well. The ones that are kicked out are already kicked out. They're on the streets. They cannot, even if you move them down to Michigan, they will not be allowed to be in Michigan Street. And then I was told, well, we're going to do a double fence down there on Michigan. You know what? There are fences around Stafford Creek, and they still get drugs in there. They still do bad things even in a prison. And this is not a prison. This is just a camp. It's not going to help them. It's not going to help our community. It's not going to make us safer. And it'll actually make my family very unsafe. I've been crying for 2 days ever since I realized that this was still on the table. I live down there. It's not going to make it better. It's just going to hide them and put a Band-Aid on the problem. And then it'll get ugly again. Right now it's better than it was. Since we do have a new mayor and he's really pushed to clean up the camp down here. But you move it, it's just going to get bad again. And I just ask each and every one of you to vote no. I did contact my state representatives and I asked them not to give us funding. I would ask them to fund us if I thought this was going to be an answer, but it's not. And please just vote no. I'm begging you. That's all I can say. Thanks, Debbie.
Yeah.
Good evening, Casey Morrison, Ward 1. I respectfully come to express my concerns about the ad hoc committee's recommendation that the temporary alternative shelter location be potentially moved to the Michigan Street property. As stated in letters from the railroad on more than one occasion, most recently last month, the railroad insists that this situation isn't safe for any parties involved. What happens to our local economy if the railroad came to the decision that operating on the harbor was no longer worth the risk? There is a very real human cost to the residents of TASL should they be allowed to reside in such close proximity to a busy rail line. More than once, when the camp was located at the riverfront, people were critically injured, the worst of which included lower limb amputation. The river camp was situated about 85 feet from the tracks. The proposed Michigan site is far closer at 15 feet. This seems like not only an accident waiting to happen, but also presents a very real prospect of another round of litigation, neither of which I imagine the city of Aberdeen will want to endure. It is noted that this population of chronically unsheltered individuals are very high needs and the most difficult to serve. Many are suffering with not only substance abuse issues, but also deep mental and psychological issues. Often there are calls to the camp for overdose. This isn't a good mix of situations to have going on in such an industrialized area. It seems likely that someone under the influence or not in a balanced mental state could easily become disoriented or have the inability to distinguish that danger is present. Being off Port Industrial, there is heavy traffic that passes through this area on a daily basis. How will you address the concerns of people darting unsafely in front of traffic, potentially being hit? This has been an increasing issue in downtown that is dangerous and will grow ever more so if these individuals are traveling in and out of the Michigan property regularly to access the services downtown. Tent camps are not the answer. They perpetuate hopelessness and anguish, further feeding substance abuse and aggravating mental health issues. While I applaud the City Council for working to find a solution in what seems an impossible task, I assure you that the residents of this city do not support and will not support a continuation of the policies that got us to where we are. We want to help, and we are beseeching the council to take this time between now and May 15th to reevaluate this situation and go back to the drawing board. Thank you for your time.
My name is Violet Morrison. I live in Ward 1. I am here to say that I am worried about the people in the tents. I worry about them being hit by a car or by a train. I don't like that they have to live in tents when it is cold and it rains. I don't like that they are sick or hurting. I pray for them every night. Aberdeen is my home and I love it so much. I just want everyone here to be happy and safe, and I hope that you are able to make this better. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Hi, Mayor and Council. Shelby Kennedy. I actually reside in Hoquiam. I work for a business here in Aberdeen, and I was actually asked by a citizen of Aberdeen to read this evening. In addressing the Aberdeen City Council members, I would like them to consider the true issue they are attempting to deal with. It is a very complex issue of other people's lives, ones that are troubled and need of repair. These lives need professional medical help in most cases. I want to know, is there one of you that sits on this council that is qualified to perform professional behavioral services? As it stands now, basically 2 city employees that already have 40-hour per week duties to comply with appear to be main overseers of TASL. This appears to take up many hours of their time. How are you justifying the lost hourly cost of their assigned jobs? Is the city paying for work that is not being completed? Do these people have credentials in the medical behavioral field? Also, do the people on the ad hoc committee have credentials in the behavioral medical field? Operating as a government agency, are they in compliance with HIPAA privacy rules and protecting medical records and personal health information about registered residents of TASL? This is a very serious issue that needs to be dealt with immediately. You need to immediately comply with HIPAA laws. The City of Aberdeen is not qualified to operate and maintain a tent encampment. The last thing the City of Aberdeen needs is a low barrier shelter. If the City of Aberdeen insists they must house people, then house them. Find the proper funding to build shelters or low-cost housing, and it must be a dry shelter. To invest in low barrier means to carry on illegal drag activities and validate all actions that go with a wet camp. It is heartbreaking to see our code enforcement officer to be spending his time performing the job of a groundskeeper and having to continuously carry and haul away mountains of infested trash. This is not what he was hired for and has been doing so for almost a year. It is time to give him back his dignity performing the services he was hired for our city. There are 6 security guards that are required to supervise the comings and goings of the people that are in need of medical help and guidance. Are they qualified to meet the needs of the residents? Can the city afford the expense of 6 security guards? I do hope the city council answers each of these questions to themselves and can truthfully say, yes, I am qualified. Established 9 months ago, this encampment has been non-compliant. Residents have constant issues and in need of help that the city is not qualified to provide. The people that live at TASL do not even have a place to wash and sanitize their hands. With the current issue of coronavirus,
20 seconds
main
left.
instructions are wash hands, wash hands, wash hands. These people have no place to wash their hands, even after using the portable toilets that are provided. How many restaurants and businesses have been patronized? How many trips to City
5
Hall?
seconds.
Do I need to continue the picture?
Hi, I'm Joanne Burns, Ward 4, and I'm going to continue for a concerned citizen that wrote the. For the record, would that concerned citizen be able to identify, would you be willing to identify that so that we are able for the public record to know who we're trying to respond to?
No.
No, she does not want to be identified. It is time for the city to let the Behavioral Health Department take over healing these people. They need immediate placement in qualified facilities, not a non-qualified tent encampment ran by non-qualified personnel. This is a behavioral health issue, not a homeless issue, although homelessness is a result in several cases. We have housing authority and many like services to handle homeless issue. Why is the City Council of 12 with the directions of 4 ad hoc members doing a job they are not qualified for? The government has established different departments to handle issues and placed qualified personnel to accomplish tasks they are educated for. Do you believe Aberdeen City Council is qualified to make decisions they have no experience in and have failed to show any different results in the past 9 months? Now they want a larger and more populated TASL, unable to handle the one thing they have now. I believe it is time for the City of Aberdeen to pass the issue to the qualified agencies that are established to handle this difficult issue of people that need attention now. Vote no, please. Thank you.
Brian Ellison, Ward 3. For the past month, this campus sat here. I have not seen much of an improvement. It's been dirty, there's been trash, they leave needles all over the place. Yet we want to make it bigger and move it out of sight. Here it's within stone's throw of the police station. Something happens, fight, what have you, the police can respond quickly. Michigan Street, it would take longer to respond, both police, fire, medical, and housing more people. Why? Thank you.
Hey everybody. Eric Larson, Ward 4. Hope you're all having a wonderful evening. You know, this is one of those things where nobody's going to win. You've got a lot of people here that are very passionate about this thing being shut down. You know, it's a litmus test that you'll never be able to match. If you need a requirement, there'll be a new one now that nobody's qualified to do this, or that another agency should be doing it, even though that agency said they don't have the capacity or the means. You know, the railroad keeps coming up as the railroad will never allow us as a bad site, and cited letters that were addressed to me at my request that said nothing of the sort. You know, various other things. The reality is that there are people that very much do not believe this is a solution, there are people that do. And, you know, part of the reason why I supported this when I was mayor was that it was something that the data showed was working. When you look at and discuss with public safety, with police and fire departments, it was improving outcomes. It was addressing a need that was not able to be met by the county because they didn't have the funding or the ability. And the idea that this needs to be replaced by something where we're putting them in housing, you know, the reality is that a lot of the people who are finding themselves in this camp aren't able to support themselves in housing even if it was available because of issues that they're dealing with. And even if you could put them in housing, there's no funding to pay for it. So, that's always been a challenge. The reality is that the council has just approved the funding for this. The mayor at any time could say this is shut down and just shut it down.
Will you please allow the speaker to have his time as everyone else was allowed? Thank you.
That's the truth, because the only thing that's ever been approved by the council is the funding and the permit for it to be there. But there's nothing requiring it to be there. And the only thing the council would be approving is the permit for it to move. Because right now, the only reason it can't be moved is because there's no temporary use permit and the funding hasn't been allocated. So, it's one of those things. There's so much politicking happening about this issue that really as a city we've never addressed or had the problem of. Generally issues have been very local and not political. But, this is one of those issues that's nationwide and we're dealing with. And I'm glad it's not me up there. But I hope you guys vote your conscience and do what you just need to do, whether it's what I think you should do or what you think, what they think you should do. I feel for you.
April O'Bine, Ward, I forgot what ward I'm in, 3, I believe. I've been out of town for a month. I just got back 2 days ago and was told about this council meeting tonight. My thing is, when I took the city to court 2 times, and it was because of how the homeless people were being treated. And, and then I found out that I had family down there. So I wanted to help the less fortunate. And that was it. They are humans. And I've said this for 2 years. They are humans. We have people here right now that are from the homeless camp. And everybody says, those people, that place, those people. Look at them. They have faces. They have hearts. They bleed also. They have PTSD, they have alcoholism, they have drug abuse, yes. Everybody forgets that there have been people that have been trying to get them help. And like I've said at one of the meetings before, I personally took 8 people to treatment, Seattle, Tacoma, Elma, Port Angeles. They didn't have a ride, I drove them. People wanted to go to detox, I took them. People that wanted to go to the hospital, I took them. It's been freezing at night while we're in our comfy homes in front of our fireplaces. They are down there freezing, hypothermia. People have issues and have seizures because it's been 29, 32 degrees. So when everybody's going around saying about these people, that place, and all this, just remember they have faces. There was somebody's mother, father, uncle, cousin, sister, brother. I don't know what you guys are voting about tonight. Like I said, I've been out of town for a month, but I do believe that we do have an issue that needs to be directed and we need help. We need to help them and not treat them like trash. So whatever you guys, just remember their faces and they have souls and they just want to help up and they're getting tired of being put down.
Steve Haywood, Ward 4. Hope you're all having a good night. The city sure isn't having a good night. These people do have choices. They can get treatment. They can get help. There's a mission. They don't want to go to that mission. Yes, they're drug addicts, alcoholics, living off the system, letting us pay for that. If you need to extend the time to May 15th, do it. Don't move it away from the police station. They're having a hard enough time taking care of this. There's urine bottles laying around. You guys haven't done anything to straighten that out. There's sickness going around. There's no hand washing station down there. They come in City Hall and touch everything. Keep them out. Take care of that problem. You guys haven't shown me one thing that you have done to help this situation, but enable these people. Yes, they have faces. I don't know their names, that's why I call them people. They are people, they're human beings, they need help. Do you guys have any education on helping these folks? I don't think you do. I'm just really upset, the whole city is upset. I feel this camp needs to stay where it is or get rid of it. Let them run the streets. Maybe the police can do their job and start enforcing the laws. Buy them bus tickets, send them back where they came from. Other towns are shipping them here, especially with this new SNAP program. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Christina Gilchrist. I'm a resident at Tent City. All I want to say was that being a resident at Tent City, I do appreciate Bill's help and all the employees there. And I do got to say that I do know that since the Tent City's been here, I do know of 11 people who have been housed since been at Tent City, and about the same amount of people that have gone to treatment and well onto their way getting themselves housed. So yeah, the city may not be personally coming in and helping us, but there is people that come in and like help us with our like getting into housing or treatment or whatever. So all the people really look at is something the drug problem. There's really not that big of a drug problem or really that many problems at Tent City whatsoever within the last few months. I'd say that it's actually gotten better at Tent City with the problems compared to like 4 months ago. So it's not as bad as what people are trying to make it seem like it is.
I'm Baker and I currently live in Tent City. I will say that Tent City actually has helped me out. I used to run around this town ranted, but since Tent City's been around, I've settled down, I've gotten my life, started to get my life back on track. I've been there for other people, been able to stand there and help them get what they need with April. And the guards down there, they are tremendous. They do their job, they help us as much as they can and are able to. The problems that have been done in Tent City have settled down quite a bit, and there's things that us campers are still working on. Honestly, Tent City should still remain open. However, I believe that it should stay in the location that it's in.
Thank you.
But, because if we move over to Michigan Street, my main worry is, I'm not worried about myself getting hit by a train or whatnot, but I have a cat. I'm worried about him getting ran over. I have fellow campers that have dogs. I'm worried about them getting ran over. So it may not be so much of a risk of us being there, but it's a risk for our animals being there. So I would rather it stay where it's at and move.
I'm Chairman Rowe, I'm pastor in Aberdeen. I just wanted to briefly say, I don't think any of us think that, one thing we might agree on is that the camp TASL is not a solution. It's a temporary measure. Long-term solutions are going to be treatment and housing in this community. And I know that there's people working for that, and I hope that we can continue to build coalitions to work for permanent solutions. Detox center, treatment, housing. But in the meantime, people have to stay alive. And this can be a stopgap measure to keep people alive in the process. So I would urge you to remember that in your vote. And also, somewhat unrelated, but agreeing with a couple of the comments, it'd be great to put in hand washing stations, especially during this virus outbreak. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Jessica Joy Fire, and I've been one of the main guests, hosting the guests at our wonderful shelter, the cold weather shelter, since November. I have seen so many things. So when I get to share a little bit of today, I'm like 3 minutes, I'm quite a talker, so I've got my son's timeout timer. So the things I wanted to share with you, a little bit about myself. I'm going to read it so I'm quicker. I'm from Hillsboro, Oregon. I've successfully ran the clinic of dental offices for the last 20 years. I became a licensed CPR, AED, and BLS instructor. I moved here to have family support me after running myself into a bottom. After being diagnosed with fibromyalgia and chronic pains and migraines, I began to abuse marijuana. And what I thought and hoped would be a solution to my pain, which ultimately brought me to the recovery rooms of both NA and AA in this town and in this county. Here is where I also have met recovering friends. One is the coordinator for the cold weather shelter. His name is Justin. And him and I have been very closely working together on how to take care of our friends down at Tent City, trying to figure out what is the best solution to keep the cold weather shelter safe, how to keep it organized, and to make sure that everyone's needs are listened to, and to also, the heart of a dental assistant is to care for others and minister any kind of, support with any of the injuries, just talking to them, encouraging them whether they may need to go to the hospital, and just having someone to talk to. And then a lot of our volunteers have been coming to me, from one time or another, just expressing some of their concerns. And it mostly has to do with, we wish we could be open different, degrees, because it's below 35 for the day, and sometimes it warms up for a little while and it gets down to freezing again. And I know there's a lot of different avenues and things that we have to consider in these shelters and in the situations for each and every one of our friends at the Tent City. I honestly do not believe moving to Tent City is the option. Where
30 seconds.
is the best place for them. Secondly, I do believe I don't believe it should be extended till the 15th, especially due to the fact that about the same 30 to 50 homeless people are the same ones that are at Tent City. Our weather is going to start warming up.
10 seconds.
And so with that, I just want to share some of those statements, and I hope that it helps you in your decision. Thank you for being here for us.
Hello, my name is Patrick Carey, and I'm a member of the Aberdeen homeless community. I don't currently live at TASL, but I used to, and I lived there for quite some time. Anyways, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself, so you can put a little information. It's just one of the people that you see. I'm pretty recognizable. I'm sure that many of you have seen me about. I'm tall, I'm large, I usually wear a suit. My name is Patrick Carey. Like I said, I was born on March 11, 1984. Yesterday is my birthday, 36 years old. I grew up in Raymond. I'm married, I have children, I'm a non-felon. I owned my own home, bought and paid for, sold said home. I've owned my own business. Been very successful in life. And like with all people, we're not very far away. Paycheck, maybe a couple paychecks. A few set of unfortunate circumstances, and then things can go very badly, very quickly. For me, I had terrible issues with alcohol. Alcohol destroyed my marriage, destroyed my life, destroyed my job. I haven't drank in over a year now. So, what I can say
since I left Rain, which is where I'm from, Rain, Washington, and I came up here and became part of the Aberdeen homeless community, is the people that I've met are not what I thought they would be. And my expectations and what I assumed they were like once I lived among them and got to know them were absolutely shattered. I found that these aren't, because I pictured and imagined what I'm assuming a lot of people do once they don't actually speak to them or know them. They picture a person with a dirty, with a beard, or holding a cardboard sign, or shoplifting, drug addicts, all that. And some of that is true. But what we don't see when we drive past them, walk past them, and go, is that these are intelligent and industrious and witty and crafty and just incredibly talented and kind and generous and honest people. I've never met people that before my life. There are people that I've met in the homeless community that I know their names, I know their birthdays, I know their kids, I know their story. I know them far better than any neighbor that I had when I had a normal life. I didn't know what Joe, who was next door to me, I didn't know what his life was about, I didn't care. Because I knew I went to my job, went home, did my thing every day. Here, these people are generous people, and you guys are one too. If you see me out about it, if you need help with something, I'll pull over and say, hey Patrick, or Fog, that's what everyone calls me. I need help moving this couch, be happy to help you. And they all know, any of them can ask me for anything, happy to help them. And they'll all be happy to help you too. I'll ask is, if next time you see a homeless person, thank you, and stop, say hey, talk to them, say hey, what's your name? Just take 30 seconds, talk to them, maybe hear their story, and you might have something you can relate to. Thank you very much.
We have them in the spot right now where they're being taken care of. We've got tents, we need hand washing places for them, there's bathrooms for them. We don't need to move them. We need to find different situations where we can put them in different places. They need help. We don't want to just move them to the rail by the railroad. They will do no good. We don't need a bigger camp, because that's just going to bring more people down. It's going to get ugly. We need to take care of what we have and do something for them. But we don't need to move to another spot, a bigger spot. And I'm just asking you guys to think about it. You don't need to vote to put it in a bigger place. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on. Finance Committee.
So the Finance Committee met this evening at 6 o'clock downstairs in the Finance Department. And before we get on to the agenda items, a couple of things I wanted to mention. The Springbrook Cloud financial system has been upgraded, and there's still a few issues, but it's working really well. And we'll continue to work on other things to make the department more efficient. A big part of our discussion tonight involved our investments, and we recently had one of our bonds that was called, and in trying to get a better return on our investment, we discussed the possibility of buying certificates of deposit from local banks to allow us for a couple of years anyway to get a higher return, because in these unstable times the interest rates just keep dropping and dropping. So we encouraged the finance. So at this time, I would like to recommend the approval of expenditures and payroll. Second.
Motion was made and seconded to approve the expenditures of payroll. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Oh, that's roll call vote.
Okay. Accounts payable in the total amount of $1,159,815.12, and payroll in the total amount of $757,281.27. Use check numbers 24810 through 24817, and checks number 2820 68230 to 68406, and Meyer 1168. Roll call vote. Alstrom?
Yes.
Andrews?
Yes.
Crosby is absent. Francy?
Yes.
Gordon?
Yes.
Kachman?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Maki?
Yes.
Rodgers is absent. Ross?
Yes.
Rowe?
Yes.
And Shaw?
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Okay, moving on to the report that we had from the last meeting that was tabled and re-added to the agenda this evening. The Finance Committee and the Parks Director recommend that the City Council authorize the mayor to sign the agreement with National Event Pros for the splash inflatable rides in the amount of $4,489.09. I move we adopt this report.
Second.
Motion made, seconded to adopt the report. Any discussion? Councilmember Kennedy?
I'd just like to really thank Stacy for going to the extra mile of trying to contact the local business and giving us more information on the relationship with the current business. I am just overwhelmed with how much work you put into that, and I wanted to know that I really appreciate that.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
And that's all for finance.
Thank you. Public Works.
Thank you. The Public Works Committee met possible reward, no risk here, so I really hope you will support that. That being said, move on to the agenda items. Oh, I'm sorry, there's something else I want to mention that Public Works staff kind of made aware of. Our parking chapter 10.20 in our Aberdeen Municipal Code hasn't been updated in quite some time. If you took the time to read through that, you might be surprised about some things. And I guess from the Public Works side, it was kind of brought to our attention, and we're, as a committee, going to take a look at that, get some feedback, and ask the staff to go. But it really bleeds over into Public Safety Committee. So I kind of think the idea is we're going to kind of take a look at it and make some comments, and then probably forward over to Public Safety, also to kind of review that, and that we take a look at the chapter 10.20 on parking, and I'd say there's some interesting things in there that is not our practice now, and it probably hasn't been looked at for a long time. So that's something we're going to be working on. First agenda item, this is the date set for a public hearing on the proposed 2020 Stormwater Management Plan. And I move we open the public hearing on this issue. Second.
Motion made and seconded to open the public hearing. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Public hearing is now open on the proposed 2020 Stormwater Management Plan.
Same Seeing no public comment, I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to close the public hearing. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
We have a report from Public Works and the Public Works Director recommending that the Public Works Committee and the City Council authorize a surplus and the auction of a 14-foot smoker-fed open trailer. I move we adopt this report.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adopt the report. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
We have a report from Public Works and the Public Works Director recommending that the City Council shall approve expenditure from the Water Department budget not to exceed $2,650 monitoring the elevation of Malalasky Dam. I move we adopt this report. Second.
Motion made and seconded to adopt the report. Any discussion? Under discussion, this is because it's a requirement.
Yes, it is.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
We have a report from Public Works and the Public Works Director that the City Council, that we bring forward a resolution for RCO standard application authorization for restoration, Lower Reach Phase 3. Move we adopt this report. Second.
Motion made and seconded to adopt the report. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
And under resolutions, we have the resolution for the City Council to approve the grant application request to the Recreation and Conservation Office for the Fire Creek grant. I move we adopt this resolution.
Second.
Motion made and seconded by Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
That's it for Public Works. Thank you.
Thank you. Public safety.
Okay, so public, excuse me, sorry.
Yeah, we just passed the resolution, so resolution.
Let's see copy, I apologize, resolution number, that'd be 2020-05. Isn't that in an unusual form?
It is.
Here you go. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Public safety.
Okay, so public safety met tonight at 6:30 in here. And so we have just a couple brief reports from our police and fire department and a few things on the agenda tonight. Starting with the police department, which also a little bit works in with our fire department, as the number of cases of coronavirus disease 2019, otherwise known as COVID-19, increases globally, we need to be prepared for the likelihood that the virus will impact our community and agency. And as we learned today, if you haven't read it already, we do have one confirmed case in Grace Harbor County. The police department, Aberdeen Police Department, as well as Aberdeen Fire Department have taken steps to help prepare for such an impact. As far as the police department is concerned, those steps included changes in jail booking procedures, as well as their response to medical calls that have involved the Aberdeen Fire Department. And if you go to the city's website, as well as the Grace Harbor County Health Department's website, they will have any information on there regarding the coronavirus and any, if you have any questions about what to look for and how to react appropriately, then I highly recommend seeking out that information before calling 911, unless certainly you are having shortness of breath or something to that effect. So we're trying to work as diligently as we can to keep this under control in Grace Harbor the way we have thus far. So Aberdeen Fire, that's it for the police department. They have one item on the agenda tonight. And from the Aberdeen Fire Department, we have our fire truck tentatively arriving in June, which is exciting. In May, we have a few firefighters going over to do the final check, and we are just giddy, like school children, to get these over here. So that's great news for our community as a whole. Moving on to our reports tonight. So first report from Public Safety. We have a report from the Public Safety and Fire Chief recommending that the mayor be authorized to sign the Homeland Security Region 3 Omnibus Aid Agreement. I move that we accept this report.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded to adopt the report. Any discussion? Seeing none,
Just really brief under discussion. I'm sure everybody read the report that was in their packet, but just to point out that this is all voluntary, this is not a cost, and they did help us out in the 2015 flood, so we would like to, what's that?
Rubicon, that was the name of the group that came up.
Oh, what you were thinking of earlier.
Team Rubicon, yes, that was.
What time
was here, I'm sorry. Popped in my head.
So, Rubicon, at any rate, yes, they helped us out in the 2015 flood, so we certainly would like to keep this going with them, so.
Okay, thank you. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Second report from Public Safety and the Police Chief recommending that the City Council authorize execution of an amendment to the 2019 MOU between the cities of Aberdeen and Hope William and Grace Harbor County, supplementing the Drug Task Force ILA regarding purchase, improvement, and maintenance of real property. I move that we accept this report.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded to adopt the report. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Third report. This report is from the Ad Hoc Committee on Homeless, recommending that the City Council approve the extension of TASL pending funding that has been requested from partner agencies through May 15th, 2020, with an additional $45,000 in expenses. Should non-city funding be made available, the Ad Hoc Committee recommends that all TASL.
You left out the word not be available.
Oh, gosh, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you. That actually is very important. Should not. Non-city funding.
Not be available. Okay, never mind.
Oh, I see. Okay, sorry. Should non-city funding not be made available, the Ad Hoc Committee recommends that all TASL operations cease and the site be closed down on May 15th, 2020. Any extension beyond May 15th, 2020 would require a separate council authorization. I move that we accept this report.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to accept this report. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Fourth report from Public Safety. Report from Ad Hoc Committee on Homeless recommending that in the event funding becomes available for operation of a TASL beyond May 15th, 2020, the TASL should move to the Michigan Street property. A TASL move would require a temporary use permit to be approved at a City Council meeting at a later time and could only be authorized for up to 1 year. I move that we accept this report.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to adopt this report. Any discussion? Frank, Gordon?
I personally, as a council member, I'm going to vote no until I have more information on funding or anything of this here nature. My vote is no, and I think the camp should be closed on the 15th.
Okay, any other discussion?
Just
Councilmember
as a
Andrews?
point of record, I'll point out that the report does say that only in the event we have funding.
Any other discussion? Councilmember Rowe?
Just a reminder for the council that we do have a request before the legislature and the Department of Commerce, and the legislature is set to adjourn shortly, and I would expect part of the reason for the May 15th date is that we should have that information in time to make a good decision on moving forward, and I support this report.
Councilman?
Kachman? Yes. I think I just wanted to point out that I've received, as I'm sure many of my fellow council members have received, numerous calls and emails this week regarding the Michigan Street location, and I think there's a general sense of frustration, just wondering how we got back here. So I would like to see a little bit more communication to the public, and I'm not sure how many city council members know how we got back here, but maybe some more communication to the council as well. I know I'm aware, I'm just not sure if everyone else is as well. So I would like to see some additional workshops put in place to talk about how this
could go forward, what our options are, due diligence, and so on and so forth.
Councilmember Andrews.
So we had a workshop at the beginning of the year. We had a workshop 2 years ago. We had a workshop last year. So I understand some of the new council members came through, but, you know, we've been through it. It's a little frustrating, but we have been through it, and every council member has the opportunity to ask anybody any questions at any time. So anytime you get your agenda and you see something on it, you want to ask questions about it, it is part of your due diligence as a council member to reach out and ask questions. Just pointing that out. We did come back because we purchased the property originally for this reason when we purchased this property. It was clear, and we were very clear when we bought that. But so there you go. We're back to it because we've run out of options. The county hasn't helped us. Nobody's given us abandoned properties. People can be upset. We're gonna make people upset no matter where we put it. But we can't keep it here because we have a limit of 1 year, and that year is almost ran out, and we can't wait till the last minute to make that choice. So there you go.
Anyone else? Councilmember Kennedy.
I have gotten, some emails, responded to, the ones that I can, phone calls. I've also spoken to people in the community. I've spoken to people that are not comfortable coming up and speaking in front of everybody in city council. And, I've seen the homeless situation since I was growing up. I grew up in Santa Cruz, California, which continues to have a tremendous homeless problem. They're managing it as well as they can. People talk about us making sure these people have services, making sure that services are available. If you look at the city of Aberdeen's charter, in the original charter, we had in there, programs for providing housing and mental health. At some point in our history, which I haven't found yet, it was decided to hand this to the county and to allow the county to come up with solutions and problems. And, it doesn't help that, in the past, a lot of the mental health facilities were shut down. So a lot of people have been shoved out on the street that have these problems. This is going to wind up in somebody's backyard, hands down. We have the ability to just kind of say whose backyard it's going to be in. We can either say we're going to choose a spot and it's going to be in this person's backyard, and we're going to have some people upset, and I'm sorry for that. Or we can let it go and we can go back to the way things were when these guys were camping out on the river, crossing over into Safeway. And you want to talk about people having problems with the railroad without having some sort of shelter to have these people at while everybody else is getting their stuff together, while all these other services are gathering steam to get something going, okay, we're going to be right back to where we were. And I find that highly unacceptable. I would much rather know that we have a place that is under our control, that we can hire an administrator. I've talked to the city. The reason we never hired an administrator was because the city council last year did not approve this move, okay? That meant that they would only be able to have the position open for a couple months. You're not going to take a position if you know it's only going to last a couple of months, unless you're only going to be in that area for a couple of months, and you're not going to do an effective job. Extending this, if we get the funding, allows us to get an administrator, helps us manage this facility and get it off the backs of our city staff. Because when they got their job description, it did not say, I am going to administrate a homeless camp. But they've stepped up and they've done it, and they've done it to the best of their abilities, and I think they should be commended for it. It is not easy being down there. It is not easy looking down there. But, we have to do something. We can't just sit on our hands and do nothing. As I've said before, it's unacceptable.
Anyone else? Councilmember Shaw.
So I would just like to speak to the due diligence of our effort these past months. Council members might recall that that was me a few months ago. I felt rushed, and that's why, even though I voted to purchase the Michigan Street property, I was a no vote when it came to moving in December, because I didn't feel like we had our ducks in a row. We had too many questions about the learning curve. We were still on it when it came to running the camp. It did have problems. And so one of the first things I did as a good faith effort for this new council was organize a workshop with the express stated intention of making sure that every single member of this council would know that we were going to come up on this day tonight in March sometime and have to make a decision. And so my goal was in January to make sure that every single new council person had access to staff, access to questions, access to the maps and the paperwork, and access to the committee to ask and get answered any question they might have as we came up to this inevitable day where we know that we are going to have to do something. So I want to thank the members of the staff who have continued to work with me. I know sometimes I'm repetitive, but I like to think I'm thorough, and I think we've been thorough, and I'm ready to vote.
Councilmember Kachman.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks to Deanne for organizing that workshop, and I feel like I've completed due diligence as it relates to it. As it relates tonight, I think my vote is going towards, we are voting for, do we want a camp or do we want to put people on the streets? Like, I feel like this is what this report is saying, and so we're up against two options that, in my opinion, both really suck, and it stinks that Aberdeen has to make this decision because the federal government has failed, the state, the county, and now here we are in Aberdeen. So tonight, that's really where I'm at. My back's up against a wall. Do I think people deserve the really crummy tent that they're getting and the sleeping bag, or is it better if they're on the street?
Anyone else?
Right here.
Councilmember Gordon.
Okay, I just want to clarify, I'm not for like dumping these people out in brush. My biggest issue is that it's just Aberdeen. Aberdeen by itself. I feel for these here people, I really seriously do. I don't think moving them down there on Michigan Street is an improvement. I really don't. It's still a temporary camp shelter, and so until we can get something lined up where we can get some type of shelters for them that's permanent, that will meet some of the guidelines that the county and the state has, we're just spinning our wheels. And I feel for them and I care for these here people, but that's the reason why I'm voting no.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rowe.
So, just wait for it. I will be supporting this. And the reason I am supporting this is because, almost exact opposite of Councilman Gordon, is that I believe that this is not, I don't believe this is an Aberdeen, this should not rely solely on Aberdeen. I agree 1,000%. But in the interim that the county is able to do something, whatever that may be, I believe it's the county that should come up with the permanent housing solution, not the city of Aberdeen. I believe that this is a temporary solution of sorts until the county can do what the county is supposed to do and what the county is supposed to have done for the last 10, 15, 20, 30, 50, 75,000 years. And until that happens, we still have a problem we have to address, period. And that's just the way it is. And if we didn't go forward with funding tonight, I am fine, close the camp, excellent, because I don't feel right about supporting a camp just until July, because everybody's gonna have to find a place to go anyways. We don't get to extend it past July. It doesn't happen. Like in July, it closes and we're done. Or we go forward and then the county can hopefully do something, as we are trying to work with the county and the state, as Councilwoman Shaw has said, and I would appreciate, I do appreciate what Councilwoman Shaw has done and her advocating for funding for us to go forward with this. She has done a great job, and I appreciate the heck out of that. But I will be supporting this because we need to do something. We can't sit on our butts and wait for someone else to do something, because guess what? They haven't. So I'm sorry, but I will be supporting this.
Councilmember Alstrom.
You know, I personally been really supporting the county in not coming forward to support our efforts in our temporary alternative shelter. You know, but the county has not got some big pot of money to solve the housing crisis in Grace Harbor County, and we're not getting state support. You know, the big cap, drugs are a part of this, mental illness is a part of this, some bad choices are a part of this. The cap overall of it is affordable housing that's not available. And this is a national issue, and it's, you know, the county is not going to solve. That's kind of, I'd ask everyone to keep that in mind. Disability, and good luck without subsidizing. You know, the current waiting list for subsidized housing through the housing authority is 39 months. I mean, so there's no quick and easy answers here.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
I remember the last homeless house that I cleaned up the remains of. There was hundreds of pounds of garbage left over. There was almost 100 syringes that picked out of last year, just one day. I don't want to see that happening. I was in our watershed in the streets, so we're going to vote for this.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilmember Kachman.
Just one final comment, and I think it was said earlier during public comment that Mayor Shave, if you are against this, then I would hope that you would either shut it down or support what the council decides tonight.
Here, here.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Under discussion, I think I've made it clear where I stand on this. I don't support it. We've tried to work through the issues here to develop this. You've all made good points, but I don't know, I just never have been able to understand why and how a ruling judge can decide that the city of Aberdeen, or all the cities on the West Coast, need to become a new social program. We don't have the ability to do that. It's been extremely stressful and time-consuming on staff. And right now, we're down from, I think initially just under 80 to under 50 because, well, basically the basic rules that we've implied on this camp in order to keep some order in there, they haven't been able to follow. And that's where it's ended up. So what the council is requesting is for the citizens of Aberdeen to, in their taxes, to become a social program here, taking care of this camp. And I don't agree with that. So we are working with the county. We're trying to partner with the county and the state to come up with a solution. Hopefully there's some real positive things there coming up. But for Aberdeen to take this camp on alone, I don't agree with that, and I hope you all vote no on this. Councilmember Andrews.
Again, the report says that if we do not receive outside funding, we're asking for outside funding. Councilwoman Shaw has gone to, on her own, with no support from everybody else in the city, other than the other members of the committee, to the Department of Commerce. She's gone to local legislators. She's gotten the support from Olympia that we need, hopefully. But just remember, we close the camp. We cannot enforce several of our laws. There are several laws on the books that, due to the Boise decision, we cannot enforce. What?
Yes, you can.
What are they? And
This is a council meeting. I appreciate the folks' concern, and there's a follow-up public comment period where you can bring those up at that time. Thank you.
Councilmember Andrews, would you like to elaborate on the laws that you're referring to?
There is public camping, and so that clearly in the lawsuit, there was a map of streets where we allow, they will be allowed to camp. It'll be the sit-lie district, we can still enforce that to a degree, but, they're going to be able to sleep. They're going to be able to sleep on the streets. Outside the downtown core, they're going to be able to sleep on the sidewalks, as long as those sidewalks are wide enough for somebody to walk by. So they're just going to set up camp wherever they want. Any public land, other than parks, they're going to be able to set up camp. And the county, the corporate council can correct me on anything I say with context. And you can, am I missing anything?
Well, I would just reiterate that the city's public camping ordinance, which I've lost the number to, and I can't believe I've lost that. Anyway, has identified 5 different classes of public land, of city-owned property that's identified as public land. One of those classes is the street rights-of-way not expressly reserved for pedestrian and vehicular traffic. And that has been more, as a result of the litigation, was more clearly identified as those areas of the sidewalk generally that are, that would leave at least a 4-foot wide passage, which is for the federal ADA path running through. Arguably, it would include, but the city did not include in its definition, medians or parking, but that is not included in the city's definition because of access issues and public safety issues. And the areas that are identified to date are in the greater downtown area, sidewalks in excess of 6 feet. We identified those in excess of 6 feet because 2 feet is kind of the minimum amount of space that would be required to lay down a sleeping bag or a single person tent. That map has been shared fairly extensively in a number of areas. There is an overlay of that map that includes the sit-lie ordinance area, which is where folks are not allowed to sit or lie on the sidewalks, not allowed between the hours of 6 a.m. and 11 p.m. And so at this point, that would mean that people could be arguably sleeping on the sidewalks from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. and need to move on a daily basis. The areas, other public land areas that are, and I believe that the police are enforcing our civil infractions on that at this point, are in some of the wooded areas and the parks and in parking lots and other properties. But it is my opinion that if there is not a specific, and that is only I say the city sidewalks is where our public camping is not generally allowed. However, if there is not available overnight shelter, then those sidewalks are what is available. Overnight shelter is also defined in our ordinance, and those definitions were taken from a variety of case law, other examples, and talks about the kinds of
available overnight shelters and the limitations that have been found by the federal courts to not be acceptable in a situation like this. So
Thank you.
I think that was a much longer description. Than
Yeah, but it was much more clearly defined input than I was in.
Thank you. Councilmember Shaw?
I just wanted to clarify one thing. The statement was made about the reduced population in our shelter. And it's true that we went through a period where we needed to crack down and ensure that people followed the rules. But as the funding is, it's not, population is not 50 because we kicked everybody out and nobody else is coming. We could have more people in that shelter tomorrow, but we have deliberately waited until we had more certainty on the shelter's future. So if we have so it's not like there's only 50 people out there willing to follow the rules. We have unsheltered people in this community that can be in there if we approve going forward. And when I joined the council, one of the reasons I joined the council is that I was so sure of myself. There were so many things the city was doing, and I knew how I would have voted and what I would have done. But this is uncharted territory. I still remember the hollow pit in my stomach when I had to sit here and decide whether to put a camp out there at City Hall. I thought, I was scared to death. What am I doing to our staff? I've learned more about the population we're trying to keep off the streets. And I think that unlike some cities that have more resources than us, we have done a pretty good job of keeping our community safe and our unsheltered off the street. And we're not dealing with the blue tarp nightmare that the Olympia and Tacoma and Seattle. I feel like if we don't approve this and people are out on the street, we cannot unring that bell. And I think that we need to at least give ourselves some more time to see if the legislature steps up and whether we can indeed come to some sort of agreement with the county on what constitutes a shelter that deserves support with them. So I thank you very much for listening to me.
Any more?
Yeah, I'm going to be with
Roll call vote.
Alstrom,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Graham Crosby is absent. Francy,
Yes.
Gordon,
No.
Kachman,
Yes.
Kennedy,
Yes.
Maki,
No.
Ross,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Shaw.
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes. Yes.
Moving on to special agenda items.
So you fucked the community. Lawsuit.
Yep.
Who's got special
Who's
agenda?
got to be the council president?
Moving on to special agenda items, under reports and communication, we have a report from the Parks Director recommending that the City Council approve the accession of a framed photograph of the SS Quinault into the city's museum collection. I move that we adopt this report.
Second.
Motion made and seconded by Alstrom. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Item number 2, we have a report from the Parks Director recommending that the City Council approve the deaccession of several items in the City Museum collection. I move we adopt this report.
Second.
Motion by Shaw and Gordon to adopt the report. Any discussion? Alstrom.
These items were lost in the fire, but they don't exist, so it's clear.
Favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
This next report is kind of exciting. A report from the Parks Director recommending that the City Council approve access to the museum collection at the warehouse on Port Industrial Road to the State Archivist and the State Historical Society. I move we adopt this report.
Motion by Shaw and Gordon to adopt the report. Any discussion? Councilmember Alstrom.
Yeah, I just want to mention, there's no cost to us with this. It's going to come down and give some guidance and information for the museum board in the process of moving forward.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor?
So we have one more item under special agenda items under E. It's appointments. I understand the mayor has an appointment to make.
Councilmember Kachman, I would appoint her to the library board.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve Kachman to the library board. And any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. You are the new library board representative. She said she likes to read a lot. All right, thank you.
That's it for special agenda items.
Thank you. Floor is open for public comment.
Shelby Kennedy, Oakland resident, spend a lot of time here in Aberdeen. I just got a couple things to say to you, council. I was at the courthouse in Tacoma the date that the judge lifted all restrictions for our ordinances in our city. And we can make it uncomfortable. You know, if I had an issue and I was mentally ill, I suffer, we all suffer from our own stuff. But if you make somebody uncomfortable, they're gonna change. And I'm gonna tell you something. You guys know a great line. We read it all the time. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting something different. We have been doing this right here for 9 months with nothing. We did a house cleaning, right? And we have council people stating, oh, there's other homeless people that will come to Tent City. Where are they? There's room for them in there. They're not coming because they don't want to live in a tent, and we don't want people living in tents. I would ask all of you council to take a trip to Cowlitz County and visit Community House in Longview, Washington. You want a solution to your problem? Go learn from them. Thanks, Shelby.
Steve Haywood, Ward 4. You were not clear on that land at Michigan Street. You voted to buy that land at Michigan Street. Then when Eric Larson bought that land, you raised your hand and said, what, you bought that land? I didn't know you were going to buy that land. Well, you voted to buy that land. 2, I was at an event. You guys are saying stop and shop in Aberdeen. I was at an event on a Saturday morning at the DNR Theater. They interrupted it for a note. It said, from the steam donkey. Anybody parked in front of, and then they stopped, he got interrupted. 5 minutes later, came back out and said, anybody parked on Broadway needs to move their car right now. What gives the steam donkey the right to tell people where they can and cannot park? The steam donkey has that white food truck parked, takes up 3 parking spots. When it's not taking up 3 parking spots, it takes up 1 parking spot and it hangs out in a Broadway 3 feet. Who's given them the right and the authority to tell people where they can and cannot park? That is just ridiculous. And Ms. Kennedy was right. Make them uncomfortable. Make them get treatment or get out of town. We have lots of services here. Who gives those services permits to operate in this city? The Mission, it always has beds. Send them to the Mission. Make them go to the Mission. I get up Sunday mornings, I get text messages telling me there's people on the street here and there. So my girlfriend and I go down and get food from McDonald's. Not very healthy, but it's food. We talked to a lady who really needs mental help. She didn't want any help at all. I got in front of City Hall, went up to somebody, 2 people under a blanket. I said, "Excuse me." They lifted the blanket and there's a crack pipe smoking. I didn't call the police because by the time the police got there, the crack pipe would be put away and the police wouldn't do a thing about it anyway. And those people were kicked out of the camp, I found out about 10 seconds later. I didn't want to give them food, but I already offered it and I gave it to them.
30 seconds.
They can afford crack. They can afford to buy their own food. And they need to get help, and we need to force them to get help or get out of town.
Good evening, Chair Mayor. I live in Aberdeen, Ward 4. This is a hard conversation to have, and we've been having it for a long time. Do we have extra tents to go camp over there tonight? Like, what's happened to those tents that are now missing off that parking lot? Because I think what we need to do is go home and pack up our bag and go sleep over there tonight and see what it's really like. Moving this back to the mud by the railroad? What are you thinking? I don't understand. It's not the right decision. Don't do it. But we can't do this alone. We can't enable this stuff anymore. Just this week, I've cleaned up 2 different times. I had to pick up bloody paper towels in front of the entrance to our business before we started class. There's needles right out in the alley in that, whatever that is, right outside the old road building that need to be cleaned up. There's garbage there constantly. I'm sick of calling. And we don't need a bunch of infighting here, whether you have a business right here or you have a business down off of Michigan Street or somewhere else in Aberdeen. This is hurting all of us. Where is this money coming from? I don't care if it's federal money. I don't care if it's state money. I don't care if it's our tax dollars right here in town. We can't do it by ourselves. And moving it from here isn't going to solve it, and enabling these people in their addiction and in their mental illness and whatever challenges they face in life, just like the rest of us. Could they camp at CAP in the old Bank of America building, lay out sleeping bags in there? At least it would be dry. You know, you're not thinking very far down the road. How many unintended consequences did you find out about, and how many costs have we incurred because we took this on? What's the tally? Over $1 million is, you know, as we talk in the community. It's costly. You know, meet with council members in Hoquiam and other surrounding cities. They're not taking this problem on. Why? Because we don't have the money to do it. So that's my parting thought. Thank you.
Al Smith, Chairman, Save Our Aberdeen, please. I had no intention of getting up here and talking. And Ms. Shaw, you tipped me over. You sounded real good all the way through, the passion and all this stuff. And then in front of homeless people sitting in this room, you said that we need to do something with this campground here and we can put more tents in there after such and such a date. And I'm thinking, whoa, where are we going with that? We are not qualified to do this, folks, okay? I appreciate your compassion. I appreciate all the due diligence and the work that you put in it, but we are not qualified to do this, period. We don't have the money. And if I have my way about it, you're not going to get any money from the state. I'm working on that right now. This has to stop. It disgusts me. And in front of a prospering business, and we need that. The whole peninsula needs that business. He's a rarity in what he does. And he repairs starters and alternators. You can't find that now. There's a half a dozen of them left in the state. We take our fire trucks there, our cop cars there, sheriff cars, any boats, fishermen. We depend on an industry. And where do you want to locate this thing? Behind that shop. You've got a lot of places you can stick this camp if you're really bent on sticking a camp here in Grace Upper Town. Please think about this. You're going to be given some opportunity to do that. Thank you.
The mayor, Councilman about the letter from the railroad. And how maybe it wasn't that, but he said it's true. I have a letter. I went to the federal court in Tacoma. I bought the court case. I've got the affidavit of Mayor Larson's. I have the affidavit of Chief Shoemate. I've got the affidavit of our fire captain. From the railroad department area. I have that, and if anybody would like to see it, several months ago, we were outside, and Eric Larson came from the wine cellar and brought everybody up here into the council room to talk. And I was outside in front, and I was having a discussion with my councilwoman in my ward, and we were having a discussion about Martin versus Boise. You hold them and put them to bed. That is not what it said. You know, but maybe she thinks I'm losing a little, but I understood. She looked at me, she took her finger, she pointed at me, and she said, Patty, I will not speak to you again until you educate yourself on Martin versus Boise. She talked a little bit more, and I said, Karen, I think you owe me an apology. I do understand Martin versus, and she's not. I have another constituent, and that I've been getting from the council, and I'm really sad to see it. But thank you, Maki, Gordon, and Shay.
Eric Larson, Ward 4, I have some snarky comments from people. I think there's a attitude that for those people here against the bill, that what we lost, and I'm sitting there. But the comment that I don't support the camp doesn't exist without the mayor allowing it to exist. The mayor has executive authority. exist because the council continues to allow it to be funded. And both of those things have to happen in order for it to happen. So the council voted tonight to basically say, okay, when the time comes, if the funding's there, we'll appropriate our portion of the funding and we'll apply for the temporary use permit to move to Michigan. But it doesn't actually move to Michigan unless the mayor directs the staff. That's the thing that frustrates me the most is that was the same thing that happened in November. There was this whole thing of, oh, we won, we're going to get this thing stopped, and now it's before they don't. You know, what it is.
Okay, council comment. Anyone? Councilmember Andrews.
I am a college educated person, but not in that. I don't want to be. We have reached out to bringing our heads against the wall to every off of our rolls, off of our money. The move we made tonight was if we don't get that funding, the camp closed. And we put a date on it so that we could be kind people and give our security firm ample notice. But, you know, that's why we chose the date we did. But, you know, I didn't want it. I never wanted to camp. I didn't want us to be in this business. But in the absence of anybody else stepping up, we didn't have a choice. And that's how we got here. And that's where we are today. So be it.
Anyone else?
Over here, sir.
Councilmember Kennedy.
These decisions aren't easy. It takes a lot to weigh in who you're helping, who you're harming, or who, you know, you are putting a whole bunch of people in their backyard that they don't want. So I think she's left. She rattled off a list of names. And that's it. We have to remember, they are a part of our community. These are our neighbors. Whether we want them to be or not, okay? You don't get to choose if somebody moves next to you in a house. You know, if somebody buys the house next to you, you don't get to choose who buys that. That's your neighbor, okay? These people are here for various reasons, and they do need help, okay? We are trying to work with agencies to get them the help they need, not just keep on, you know, supporting them as a lot of people are saying today. And if they would just take a moment to actually see a lot of what people have gone through to get to this point, We are not doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result. That was your city. That was before some of these decisions were made to open a camp and get these people off of the streets, to make a place where we can send them and we can now enforce some of our laws. If that goes away, you know, we're going to have these people out there and law enforcement is going to have their hands full with them. I would really actually rather have our law enforcement out there ticketing the speeder that likes to, you know, run down the street at 50 miles an hour. But they can't do that because they are so busy with everything else going on. And if this whole population, this whole part of our community is just dropped on the streets again, this is not an easy decision. It's not, there is no good way to handle this for us. But like I said, we can't do what everybody has to be